6 weeks after my grandpa died, my girlfriend and I broke up on Valentine's Day. I was literally at my fattest ever. I was about 183 pounds, and I'm a short dude, so that's actually a lot. And I was jobless. I was broke. Literally, I was broke. And I remember thinking, holy fuck, I'm pathetic. And yet, it was these sets of events that was a spark for me to finally lose 35 pounds. And I'm going to get into why. So before all that, I'd spent years trying caloric deficits. I even got into six pack shortcuts, Mike Chang back in the day, and I tried to do it all, but I could never stick to anything. I thought that reading more posts on bodybuilding.com or reading more like articles about what foods to eat, what diets to eat, it was just like madness. And I even got personal training. I actually lost weight a couple times, but then I regained them. And then it would be a cycle for just regaining weight, losing weight again. And I could never actually stick to anything. And so what I had found is that the reason why I couldn't lose weight is because I thought that it was a purely physical problem. I thought it was a problem of doing more calorie deficits, eating less foods, or sticking to something. But really, as I've found from these events, was that it was more spiritual, it was emotional, it was psychological, it was mental, and we're gonna go into like how we kind of navigate reality and how that kind of relates to all that, and how you can solve your own problems, which are probably inherently multidimensional. And so I've kind of gone over this concept of the divine spark before, but basically within every person is a divine spark. It's kind of this, like, you can call it soul, you can call it inner knowing. There's not necessarily doesn't necessarily have to be a kind of woo woo or mystical explanation for this, though I would say it's valid. I always like to make an example of is when you're looking at a painting and or you're listening to a piece of music and it evokes this deep feeling within you. What is that? That is something that is within. You are actually touching some sort of place that's ineffable, right? You can't put it into words, but you literally can't put it into words. It is this deeper aspect of reality that you are touching and that is also within you, right? So when you are listening to a song, right, it's not that, like, think about it. That song is just a bunch of like sound waves together, right? But for whatever reason, when it goes through your ears, you're feeling something from somewhere, and that's really what. And basically, any person who has accomplished anything meaningful in life has some sort of connection, a deep connection to their divine spark. And most people today, we have either lost a connection or it's very, very weak. Fortunately, you can rekindle this, but that's another video entirely. But that would be step zero. But before that, now that we get into like how do you actually solve your own problems without trying to bang your head against the wall trying to do the same thing, it's we have to talk about reality, like reality. And I don't just mean the universe, the physical universe, right? Like stars, planets, although I mean everything. When you think of everything, I mean everything, right? So like your body and the stars and your thoughts and your feelings and your connection, everything. I mean everything, right? And so every moment you and I are experiencing reality at multiple levels, this reality at multiple levels, right? Physically, you're probably listening to me or watching this on your phone or your laptop, whatever, right? Emotionally, this might elicit some sort of feeling from you, right? If this really resonates with you, then you probably feel really seen. If this is boring, then you were probably not even watching this anymore and you're about to click off and you're like, this guy's like fucking crazy or something, right? Or you might even feel even something even deeper than an emotional thing. It's like maybe like you feel some sort of connection to the universe. Maybe like you know, maybe you feel some sort of deeper connection with yourself from watching this video, right? And these are just at the conscious level, right? Some like cognitively, your brain is doing some sort of magic when the sound waves enter your ears, and it's turning that into some sort of meaning. Well, that's a mystery, right? Your heart is pumping blood to make sure your brain doesn't just bug out in the middle of you, and then you just go like limp, right? So whether you are aware of it or not, right, or conscious of it, you are experiencing reality at multiple different layers. Actually, one could say an infinite amount of layers at the same time. Right? And the same can be said for pretty much every experience you've ever had and ever will. And this is not really a new concept, right? Like we have been kind of, if anything, like math or sociology, philosophy, all these are different fields. You could consider them to be different slices of reality, right? But for our practical purposes, right, for as it relates to our problems in our lives, it doesn't really necessarily matter how you slice up reality, but well, it kind of does, but that's another topic entirely. But for as it relates to our problems, right, which means our problems also relate or exist at multiple layers of reality. These layers being the physical, right? This is obvious, right? Like tangible world, your body, your environment, and the actions that you take. And then there is the emotional, right? The your feelings, your moods, and just like the patterns of how you react to things in reality in the world. And then there's mental, right? There's your beliefs, your thoughts, the stories that you tell about yourself, right? Your narratives. And then there's a spiritual, your connection to things like meaning, to purpose, to the whole, and for some people, God or Allah, the Tao, whatever it's going to be, right? So I don't know if you remember working with these in high school, these Cartesian coordinates or these XY graphs. You can actually think of these aspects of reality as axes of a graph, right? And so everything that you experience has some sort of coordinate in physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual space, right? Sometimes you will elicit like negative physical, like I don't know, maybe like your dog dies, so it's going to elicit some sort of reaction emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually out of you, which is what happened with me when I broke up with my girlfriend and when my grandpa died and then my dog died, like all within the span of like 6 months, right? But when it comes to the problems in your life, right, every problem also exists. It has a physical correlate, it has a mental correlate, it has a emotional correlate. It's kind of like vectors, components of a vector for people who are STEM nerds or at least have some sort of STEM background. So if you were kind of to break down my problem of losing weight using this using this concept, right? So physically, yeah, I was eating too much and not exercising enough. Emotionally, I was unable to cope with negative emotions in a positive way, so I turned to food for comfort. So, first of all, the big problem was I was just completely ignorant of all these other aspects of reality, like emotional, like mental, spiritual. Like I thought, oh, I'm just a robot and I just got to do the right actions and I will get there, right? But really, I'm not a robot, and there's a lot more complicated psycho, spiritual, emotional things going on that prevent you from doing the things that you, even though you know you need to do them, right? Like procrastination. That is largely, it's not a matter of taking action. It's actually more of a psycho spiritual slash emotional issue. And so mentally, right? Then this is something I found out. So I was able to start losing weight, right? But mentally, I had trouble staying at these thinner weights or like at my lower weight because my identity was still stuck at being the fat kid. I still believed, and like deep down, part of me still believed I was like the fat kid and I was destined to be fat for the rest of my life, right? And I had this unconscious belief that I also didn't deserve the the, the fruits of my labor, right? Or that I didn't deserve to succeed, right? And spiritually, well, I mean, dude, like for the longest time, I was spiritually like defunct. There's nothing there. And so when you break it down like this, right, it becomes obvious why I struggled to lose weight, right? So again, the whole time I tried to solve it purely at the physical level. And this is where a lot of people fall into this pitfall where into this sort of reductionism where they're like, okay, it wasn't about the caloric deficits. It was never about this. It was about emotional and spiritual and all that. And yes, there's truth in that, right? There's truth in that it's not just, yes, it's not just caloric deficits, but you still gotta have to know a little bit of like what to do, right? But again, I was ignorant about all the other aspects. And yeah, so here's the thing, like knowing what actions to take is important, but it's consistent action that drives results. But you can't be consistent if you are emotionally compromised, and it's hard to not be emotionally compromised when you believe you don't deserve to thrive and you're spiritually dead. And so it's cliche, but it's also very true. Understanding any problem is the most important step in solving it. And so when you start to understand where it exists and what aspects of reality your problems exist in, you can actually begin to understand them at a deeper level and therefore solve them. And you don't have to shoot in the dark anymore. You can't bang your head against a wall, or you're not wondering why can't I get myself to do the things I want to do. And so That's really what it is. It's about having, and again, this is not, I want to make something very clear. This isn't about eliminating suffering or eliminating pain at all. Like I will not even make you that promise because I can't. There is I'm going to throw you these two quotes that I like. Right, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. So hopefully with this framework, you not only have an endless source of pursuits, but your suffering will be minimized as much as possible. Of course, you're human, so inevitably you're gonna be the cause of extra pain. That's just part of the whole package of being human. We're going to bring some sort of unnecessary suffering upon ourselves. Cool, right? If you're going through hell, all right, there's another quote. If you're going through hell, keep going by Winston Churchill. So I really want to reframe pain and suffering here, and kind of like my whole ethos with this polymath thing is it's about learning with your whole being, right? It's not just your head, but with your emotions and with your spirit and with your body, everything, right? So like for example, Thomas Jefferson, he didn't sit there thinking about liberty, right? He didn't whiteboard liberty. I mean, yes, sometimes he did, but to him it was a deeply existential problem that it literally kept him up at night, right? Like it possessed him. And that's what I mean. So the more painful your problem actually, the more you will actually learn because you have some sort of emotional, spiritual, psychological stake in the solving of that problem, right? So I don't want to say that you're never I'm going to eliminate pain of this. All I can promise you is that I will is less ignorance, and so therefore maybe you can reduce your pain and your suffering, but you still have to go out there and solve your problems, which to me honestly will invoke some sort of pain at the very least take some sort of effort, right? Not the grinding kind of um, you know hustle culture kind, but it will take effort. And so that's where we're at right now. So fuck it, I'm just gonna post this.